The dying sun cloaked Woodbridge, New Jersey in an aureate shroud as Jonathan Haverford's worn leather boots crunched over the gravel path leading to the homeless shelter. He was a man whose features bore the telltale signs of time, his lined face a canvas of wisdom and wear. His gray eyes held a weight, a silent echo of forgotten traumas interlaced with resilience. He was generous in ways most couldn't comprehend, quiet in a manner that wasn't timid, but contemplative. A beacon of fairness, he had a heart teetering between empathy and a haunting past that cloaked him in a perpetual melancholic winter. Bipolar disorder was his unwanted companion, a merciless dance of euphoria and despair. Yet his trauma had fortified him, transforming him into a human lighthouse amidst life's most violent tempests. Upon reaching the shelter, Jonathan looked at the crumbling edifice, an ironic sanctuary beneath which, he was told, an ancient civilization breathed in silence. Its patrons, their faces weathered by time and trials, came into focus. Their stories were etched into their creased smiles and calloused hands, stories he found himself drawn to. He felt an odd kinship with them, an unspoken camaraderie of shared struggles, albeit in different contexts. "You're the reporter?" A voice rumbled from his side. It was Samuel, the shelter's stern yet kind-hearted caretaker. His roughened hands were a testament to years of tireless service, his gaze a mirror of wearied resilience. "That I am, Samuel." Jonathan offered a thin-lipped smile, his voice a rustling whisper that threaded through the autumn chill. "People here have enough problems without some fancy journo making it worse." Samuel's gruff exterior thinly veiled his concern for his charges. Jonathan nodded, his gaze steady. "I'm here to help, not harm. I believe your people and the truth they're sitting on need a voice." Samuel regarded him for a moment, gauging the sincerity in the soft-spoken words before a grudging acceptance slipped into his features. He then led Jonathan through the shelter, where their hushed whispers met the eerie silence of the building, a melody of uncertainty echoing through the cold halls. As the day folded into the ink-black embrace of night, Jonathan found himself drawn to the shelter's people, their past, and the growing enigma beneath their feet. He was a man bound by the chains of his past, repaying an unseen debt through each word he wrote, each story he told. And as the final vestiges of his first day in Woodbridge slipped into oblivion, an uneasiness found home within him. The gentle whispers of the ancient stones seemed to grow louder in the darkness, their secrets inching closer to the surface, hinting at a future teetering on the brink of revelation. The morning sun spilled its liquid gold onto the quiet town of Woodbridge, finding its way into the claustrophobic spaces of the homeless shelter. The structure hummed with the gentle snore of slumbering inhabitants and the occasional rustle of a waking body. Jonathan, however, had risen with the sun, the lure of the ancient world beneath his feet, pulling him from the comfort of sleep. Wrapped in the solitude of dawn, he descended into the yawning mouth of the subterranean ruins. The faint chirping of birds was gradually replaced by an eerie quietude, punctuated only by his shallow breaths and the distant drip-drip of hidden groundwater. Around him, history clung to the damp walls in cryptic symbols, their meaning lost to time. The air was heavy with the hushed whispers of a forgotten civilization. He could feel the immense weight of centuries pressing down on him, a paradoxical mix of dread and awe that numbed his senses. The quiet was a living entity, undulating and crawling around him. Back in the shelter, the day brought subtle changes. The residents, once vibrant in their despair, were now dulled. Laughter fell flat, conversations were clipped, and eyes that once sparkled with life now bore a far-off look. He noticed these transformations during his evening interactions. A peculiar twitch of the hand here, a vacant stare there, a conversation abruptly halted and never resumed. The residents of the shelter seemed to exist on an unsteady precipice, a thread away from toppling into the unknown. "Something's not right, Samuel," Jonathan confessed one evening, under the shelter's weak electric lights. Samuel, his face creased with concern, agreed. "They ain't the same no more, Jonathan," he admitted, rubbing a hand over his tired face. "I thought it was just the stress, but it ain't. It's like something's taken hold of them." The week dragged on. a somber waltz of ancient mysteries and shifting human behavior. The underground ruins whispered of unfathomable secrets, while the homeless shelter's residents showcased a worrying change. The surface world was losing its grip on reality, while the hidden world beneath grew in power, its presence seeping into the very bones of Woodbridge. As the final day of the week collapsed into twilight, a sense of unease tightened its hold around Jonathan's heart. The town of Woodbridge, with its seemingly ordinary inhabitants and its extraordinary secret, was starting to reveal its true colors. But what lurked beneath the surface was more menacing than he could have ever imagined. The story was unfurling, and he found himself both its narrator and its captive audience. Little did he know that the real horror was yet to take center stage, silently weaving its web in the shadowy recesses of the forgotten ruins. Beneath the drab gray skies of Woodbridge, life in the homeless shelter moved with the sluggish rhythm of a dirge. The once lively residents now lumbered like specters, their hollow eyes reflecting the ghastly dance of hidden terrors. The veil had been lifted, revealing a sinister puppeteer pulling invisible strings, a parasite, ancient and alien. Jonathan, his mind teetering on the edges of understanding and madness, delved deeper into the cryptic ruins. The intricate symbols that adorned the subterranean walls now whispered chilling truths to him. They spoke of an ancient entity, a parasite from the cosmos feeding off human consciousness, steering its host with a ghastly finesse that sent shivers down his spine. His nights were now painted with surreal nightmares, images of the shelter residents moving in grotesque dances, their eyes vacant, their bodies mere vessels. He woke each morning soaked in a cold sweat, the echoes of his nightmares reverberating in the cavernous silence of dawn. Yet there was another battle raging within him, a contest of reality against the cruel tricks of his disorder. Bipolar disorder was a manipulative beast, known to distort the world around him. Could these revelations be just figments of his unstable mind, his reality twisting to the haunting melody of his disorder? Or was he truly teetering on the precipice of a horrifying abyss, staring into the inky depths of cosmic horror? One evening, amidst the silent chaos of the shelter, he approached Samuel, the burden of his discovery weighing heavily upon him. "Samuel," he began, his voice a trembling whisper, "I think I've found what's causing the changes." Samuel, his face lined with worry, listened as he relayed his terrifying findings. His usual stoic face drained of color, and for the first time Jonathan saw fear flicker in his eyes. "Ancient, alien parasites?" Samuel repeated, his voice a strained whisper. As the grim reality of their situation sank in, the homeless shelter seemed to shrink around them, the walls closing in with suffocating intimacy. The dance of the parasites had begun, their grotesque waltz unfolding under the oblivious gaze of the world. The horror of their situation hung thick in the air, an unspoken terror gnawing at the fringes of their sanity. By the time the sky was stained with the inky darkness of night, an invisible shroud had descended over Woodbridge. Beneath this shroud, the sinister ballet of the parasites moved with increased fervor. And as Jonathan lay awake, trapped in the chilling embrace of his findings, the quiet whispers of the ancient stones grew louder, the final act of their cosmic horror just beginning to unfurl. The cobalt cloak of dawn hadn't yet lifted when Jonathan, filled with a grim determination, descended one last time into the cavernous maw of the subterranean ruins. His discovery had painted the world around him in shades of dread, turning the once quaint town of Woodbridge into a stage for a cosmic horror show. He found himself both an actor and the captive audience, the protagonist and the chronicler. His footsteps echoed through the silent stone labyrinth, each footfall a stark reminder of the alien parasitic entities that lay in the heart of this forgotten civilization. A chill ran through him, not from the cold, damp air, but from the realization of his impending encounter with the parasitic entities. Emerging from the depths hours later, he looked at the shelter residents anew, their actions now a grotesque marionette show, their bodies mere vessels for the cosmic parasites that now called them home. He sought Samuel, the worry lines etching deeper canyons into the caretaker's face. "We have to warn them, Samuel. We have to tell the world what is happening here." His voice, steady yet edged with desperation, sliced through the morning quiet. Samuel nodded, a silent agreement in his grave eyes. The task was Herculean, the horror they were to unveil unimaginable. Yet they were bound by the weight of the truth they carried. As days turned into weeks, Jonathan tried to expose the grim reality, to pull back the concrete veil that obscured the parasite's dance from the world. His articles, the fruit of sleepless nights and heart-wrenching revelations, fell on deaf ears, ignored and ridiculed. The town's authorities, some of them too under the invisible sway of the parasites, dismissed his warnings as sensationalist journalism. The walls of disbelief seemed insurmountable. One fateful evening, weighed down by his futile struggle, he decided to leave Woodbridge. His heart ached for the victims left behind, for Samuel and the haunted shelter residents. But he was a solitary voice against a roaring tempest of ignorance and alien manipulation. As the familiar sights of Woodbridge faded into the rearview mirror of his car, he felt the specter of the ancient parasites following him, a shadow cast from a horror not of this world. He had escaped their physical clutches, yet mentally he was forever a captive. The knowledge of their existence a shackle that bound him to the town he left behind. His journey didn't end with Woodbridge fading in the distance, for the true horror lurked in his rearview mirror, in the eyes of every stranger, in the hum of every city, and in the silent corners of his mind. The cosmic horror had seeped into his existence, an inescapable shadow that would forever loom in his consciousness, a chilling reminder of the vast, unknowable universe and the horrors it held. We appreciate you tuning in. If you fancied the content, show your support with a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to keep up with our eerie adventures. Eldritch Tales Factory has plenty more to offer. Until next time.